Luxury cars. The biggest signal of wealth a person can show, unless you're a Miami kid, in which case they are a showcase of great rental cars in the area. But everywhere else, if you're seen in one, people think you're doing well for yourself, and that the car costs you a ton of money. But what if that doesn't have to be the case? What if you could fool everyone and drive an amazing looking car for not an amazing amount of money? I found some bargains that could fool a vast majority of people into thinking that what you're driving could cost at least double, if not triple, and maybe even quintuple of the price. These are all cool cars that can be found for 10,000 euros or less, but they look much more expensive for the price, and should look like good deals, especially to non-car people. So if that seems interesting, then stick around.
But be warned, most of these cars are going to be cheap for one reason or another, and in the end, they might just be your doom.
Alright, let's start with the first car.
Audi A7.
As far as this topic is concerned, the VW group is king of this stuff. Their cars depreciate like crazy, and yet the design is probably the most timeless of all luxury brands. And this car is the first proof of it. First gen Audi A7, sportiest car we have today. The lines on these are beautiful, and even 15 years after they were first produced, they look better than 90% of cars on the road today. And it backs this up with luxury inside. You can easily find them with nice leather seats, good infotainment, and every possible gizmo that you can think of in modern cars. You can even find some with wood trim if that's your turn on. What you cannot find them with is low mileage, at least not in today's budget. Also, these are mostly equipped with the infamous 3-liter TDI engines, which do have a decent amount of horsepower, 204 to be precise, but they also have a ton of known issues. Fuel injector issues, rough idles that make them sound like an old 1.9 TDI, timing chain issues, and if you're a fan of steam locomotives, then you'll love this one, because you'd think that smoke was one of the options at a dealership given how common it is. If you're still okay with all these potential issues, we're right at the limit of our budget, and there are a dozen of cars listed for 9 to 10 grand, and they seemingly look like they're in nice condition. If you can find the Quattro car, that would be amazing. They have better transmissions and drive nicer. They still brake a lot, but at least you'll have a nicer ride before they inevitably do. Still, even knowing all this, I'd be tempted to get this one and risk it all. But if you're not a fan of beautiful cars and prefer big ugly blobs called SUVs, then I have one car even for you.
Porsche Cayenne.
When an average person takes a closer look into your car, one of the first things they see is the badge. And while almost all premium brands have tainted their legacy with terrible cars made for the common folk, one of the rare ones standing with the expensive reputation is none other than Porsche. Everyone and their grandma knows that Porsche means business and that money is not an issue for its owner. The other common thing people look at when determining car value is its size, and judging by these parameters, Porsche Cayenne from the early 2010s is the perfect storm for today's video. The only issue is it looks like an overweight bumblebee and it hasn't aged as good as the A7, but still, it's probably the fanciest brand on the list. Most of these will have the same 3-liter TDI engine as the A7, but of course under a different name and with a bit more power, 245 horsepower to be exact, which actually isn't enough to make this car faster than the Audi, given that it's just such a giant piece of shit. But given that this is almost the same engine as in the A7, issues are the same. Fuel injector issues, rough idles that make them sound like an old 1.9 TDI. Prices, you know the drill by now. Around 9 to 10k for the ones that have been driven around a lot, and I don't think that there's much more to say about Cayennes. Not sure if it's worthy of a Porsche name, and Tuaregs are better looking anyway, but this is probably the only Porsche I'll be able to afford, so I am supposed to like it. I'm just not sure that I do. If you want to skip this one, however, consider the next one, as it also has a stripper's name.
Mercedes E-Class.
The legendary Mercedes W213. If you've ever been to any city in Germany, chances are you've been driven in one by a taxi driver. Yet, if it isn't in a taxi cream color and with some nicer rims and interior, it looks like a car you'd rent when going back home to show how good life with 3 roommates in a 1-bedroom apartment in Western Europe is. And you can actually afford this one. It's nice outside and even nicer on the inside. Really comfortable, well equipped and quiet. A real highway cruiser. The ones that we can afford today have at most 150 horsepower packed in a 2-liter diesel engine, so don't expect any real driving dynamics out of this. As for the reliability, these should be fine as long as they're maintained regularly. There were some minor issues, but from what I've seen, nothing that would leave you stranded on the side of the road. Which is important, as if Mercedes ends up on a tow truck, you know that picture is going in the village Facebook group. These cars were used by taxis after all, so you know that they can cover a ton of miles. And there lies the biggest problem of these. Those taxi cars are probably the ones that we can afford right now. Expect most of these to have already been to the moon by now, and that might not even be their real mileage. These are the favorite cars of shady resellers and importers, so definitely take care when buying one. Most of the drivable ones with around 300,000 kilometers go for 8 to 10,000 euros, and even less if they have 400,000. Still not your style? Let's try with cats instead.
Jaguar XF.
What better way to show off your wealth than by having a luxury sedan with leather interior, heated seats, and a bunch more equipment that you would usually see on at least a 35,000 euro car. And all that from a recognizable luxury brand like Jaguar. This name used to mean something, at least before the terrible rebrand attempt. But most people aren't aware of that, so you should still be given a fair bit of respect. And all that for price of a used VW Golf. That is all possible with Jaguar XF. The generation I'm referring to is the last one they produced between 2016 and 2024, so it still looks like it's in production. And it's loaded with all the modern gizmos that you might need. Cars in this specific price range won't be perfect, they'll either have high mileage or small scrapes, but those can all be fixed. Polishing can be done fairly cheaply, and as far as you're concerned, high mileage is just a discount for you. After all, no one can see the mileage from the outside. Also, for this price, you'll probably be getting the lowest tiered 2-liter diesel engines, which might be an issue if you live in some emission-restricted areas, but if you're from Eastern Europe, then you've hit a jackpot. These produce around 160 or 180 horsepower depending on the version, which is honestly enough, as you want to drive by other people slowly anyway, so that they can see your premium car better. And this all sounds too good to be true, but is it? Some issues with timing chains and engine mounts would say that it is. Replacing the timing chain is an engine-out job, so quite an expensive fix. On top of that, some issues with screens have been reported, and this is only a beginning. The list goes down a lot. If this still hasn't deterred you from looking into one of these Jags, then the ones in okay condition can be found in the 7 to 10,000 euros price range. Mostly because of their bad reputation, but sometimes because they're just crap. And even the best cars could develop these issues over time. So be careful. And there we have it, 4 cars that will make you look rich. But the only person getting rich off of them will be your mechanic. They turn out to be luxury cars after all. These are probably not as catastrophic as I am describing, and you might get lucky with one, but it is a gamble. Just remember, as we all sort ads by lowest price first, be aware that poop almost always floats to the top. If you're still interested in any of these, and I doubt that many people still are, just be careful. These are all most likely money pits, but it was fun to look at what can be purchased for a price of a used Golf 7. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe. It would mean a lot. Thanks, and I'll hopefully see you around. Bye!